Welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. And if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you'll miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Well, folks, it looks like conference realignment is as hot as ever. Uh, there's been a lot of things come across the wire today as far as possibilities in the ACC. It's probably a little less crazy over out in the Pac-12 today as it's been throughout. Although you're hearing some stuff that doesn't so much surprise anybody as far as the Pac-12 pushing back their deadline to make a decision about their media rights deal now to August. That's probably what the 60th time probably that this has happened. Welcome to the show, everybody. Adela, hello. Hank and Mars Jam, what's up, man? You guys were all in here a little early. I appreciate that, everybody. Tell me what you guys are hearing about all this. I'm going to run through a couple of things just to kind of to recap what we're, and then there's a lot to it. Now we may have a few guests in here. The coach is going to be a little bit late, but he will be in here as well. Obviously, the landscape of college football and college sports in general. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot over the last, I don't know, a few months, but really the last year, of just how much this is all going to change. And every freaking week, or every day almost, it seems like something new is coming up. Now, if you remember right, I was talking to TJ Pittenger along with Jim Williams and then Nathan Bomber Brown. We talked a little bit about the ACC possibility a few weeks ago on whether or not they could pull enough people together to be able to break up this, for what they still got 13 years left on the deal with ESPN, for them to be able to dissolve the conference. Now, when you listen to what Jim Williams was talking about, there's going to be lawsuits and all that kinds of stuff like that. But what we're finding out today is that the ACC has joined, there's members of the ACC that have formed a, quote, Magnificent Seven, obviously being those big schools that you expected: FSU, Clemson, North Carolina, and then, of course, Miami as well. I'll tell you something. That's a good point right there, Hank. I'm going to get into that in just a second. But they have also apparently teamed up with the likes of NC State, Virginia Tech, and apparently now Louisville has become, if you listen to what Greg Swain is saying, a lot of people some people are listening to what he's got. I mean, he seems to hit the nail on the head quite a bit. He's obviously very outspoken about what he's talking about. This is a guy that's been in radio for 30 years, though. It's not like he doesn't know anybody. So I would, what I would tell you guys, and particularly when it comes to the Pac-12, and we need to get into this a little bit as well. I'm getting overly tired of the Tony Altimore stuff. He's got his little minions that he sends out to attack us on Twitter for reporting things that we're hearing from reputable sources that they're calling not reputable sources. And it's asinine stuff. What we're finding out, though, and this has come from places like, obviously, I don't know about in a worse spot than the Pac. The ACC itself, probably. The thing is that here's something that when talking to Jim Williams that time, and I don't know if you guys watched that. I'll stick that into the description here in just a few minutes so that you can check it out when we're done. The way that he talked about it was that there was no way in hell, and I almost felt kind of bad for TJ from Double Fries No Slaw, because here he is. These guys are all kind of like trying to rally this to happen. And the reason is pretty simple, I would say. When you start looking at Clemson, FSU, these are blue blood type programs, right? They've won multiple national championships. They've won recent national championships. Obviously, Clemson played for 4 of them, winning 2 in the playoff era, right? So they are brands that move the needle And they know that they're about to get left behind, because as soon as the SEC and the Big Ten start with their new media deals, which the Big Ten starts, I believe, this season. The SEC will be in 2024 when Texas and Oklahoma enters. You're going to start losing upwards of 40, 50, 60 million. I mean, it starts off a little slow in both of the conferences as far as like what the number is. I think it starts at 75 to 80, but it's going to jump. And it's going to, towards the end of the deals, you're going to be upwards of $100 million. That's going to jump ahead of schools in the ACC 40, 50 million by the time it's all done with. And they don't have, I mean, the next time that they can start a new deal in the ACC is 2036. Put it to you this way. The Big Ten, this deal is for 7 years, 5 years, 7 years. I'll check on that for sure. But, I mean, this one, they're going to renew. They'll probably renew twice by the time you would have the ACC renew with ESPN, right? Same with the SEC. They're going for 7 years. Then you've got the Big 10 or the Big 12, 7 years as well. We're talking about these deals. And so all these guys are going to have an opportunity to re-up their contract. The Pac-12 still doesn't have a deal yet from starting in 2025. It's starting to look as if that's less and less viable when you heard over the weekend that the Big Ten they have vetted and approved Oregon and Washington for membership in the Big Ten. Now, they have said that they are not going to be the ones to pull the trigger on that. I think they want to wait and see if you get one of those four corner schools or a couple of them to jump to the Big 12, which would probably open the floodgates on that. Now, and a lot of the funny part about that was, okay, well, we don't want the Pac-12's blood on our hands. We don't want the Pac-12's blood on our hands. We being, the conference that started all this with the Pac-12 by going and saying that we wouldn't poach from whether it be the ACC or the Pac, and then poaching from the Pac. It's the second largest media market in the country in LA with SC and UCLA. No, the ACC, you're right. The ACC is not going to catch up to the big boys. What I would tell you is neither is the Big 12. What the Big 12 can do, and this is the beauty of it, is they're also, this is not just a football thing when you start talking Big 12, because what they're trying to do, I love this already. What the Big 12 is obviously trying to do is sell its basketball as well. This is the number one basketball conference in the country. It could get a lot better soon. If you were to add those four corner schools, you're talking about adding the likes of a true blue blood in college basketball in Arizona. It's pretty much sounds to me like it's been a done deal for a while that Gonzaga will be joining the Big 12 as well, basketball only school. You've already got Houston. They've been a number one seed in the tournament for the past 2 seasons. Kelvin Sampson, OU fans know all about what Kelvin was about. The guy, he got it done. Now, obviously, he had to leave under some bad situations for Oklahoma. But this guy could coach, right? You still have, obviously, Baylor. You still have Texas Tech's been in the Final Four as of late. You've got KU being KU. Baylor and KU have won 2 of the last 3 national championships. There's also been talks of San Diego State. They believe that they're either going to join the Pac-12 or the Big 12, depending on which one lives. This is insane basketball we're talking about. Now, if this ACC thing blows up, because where TJ's at, and I'm hoping maybe he's recording tonight, so he may or may not be able to join us, but I'd love to have him come in and kind of go through it. What they believe is this, though, is that you need a simple majority of the conference to say they want to dissolve it to be able to get out of that grant of rights with the ACC that says, we get the rights to all of your media deals or all your media broadcasting for your games for the length of this contract, right? if you get out of it, you're looking at, if you get those 8, theoretically, now, and I say theoretically because, again, Jim Williams wasn't so sure about this. Theoretically, if they get 8 of them to say, hey, we want to dissolve the conference now becomes dissolved. TJ had talked about things like the 4 bigger schools that, if they're going to go to the SEC or in the Big Ten, which you're starting to hear things like Carolina, Miami to the Big Ten, whereas it would be Clemson, FSU to the SEC. I wouldn't tell you that I believe any of that. I think that any of them could go anywhere. But just talking about those 2 bigger conferences, whoever goes wherever, whoever else joined in, helped them dissolve that conference to be able to make that move and be able to keep up financially, they would help make them whole on the back end if they say, talking like Virginia Tech, NC State, whatever, Louisville, for instance, joining the Big 12. Now, obviously, they're not making as much money as will the SEC and the Big 10. So they would be able to compensate them to bring them up to where everybody's making an equal amount. The little 12 in the pack could just merge and be Hank, they could have done this crap a long time ago. Here's the deal about that. George Kliavkoff and has yet, I don't want to just blame it on Kliavkoff, but I got to tell you, he has yet to find a way to talk anybody into anything in the conference. He's yet to do it. First off, they could have killed the Big 12. I mean, let's just recap all of this. The Pac-12 could have killed the Big 12 as soon as OU and Texas decided they were going to the SEC. Everybody wanted to kill Greg Sankey and the SEC for destroying the fabric of college football, right? Then you get your little alliance with the Pac, the Big 10, and the ACC. They were meeting for a couple of days. They don't come up with any kind of contract. They have a little handshake deal. And then, lo and behold, about 9 months later, Kevin Warren and the Big 10 and USC and UCLA announced that USC and UCLA are headed to the Pac. Hey, look at here. Welcome into the show real quick. The coach. Coach, hold on 1 second. Let me find you. There he is.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Coach? How you doing?
How you doing, man?
I'm all right. It's a pretty wild day.
Crazy day.
Yeah, conference realignment stuff, man. It's starting to heat up again. I think it's obviously been. I was just telling everybody, it's already obviously been on fire for probably 2 years anyway, since Texas and Oklahoma made the choice to go to the SEC. Today and over the last day or so, you've been getting a lot of the ACC is starting to look like maybe they have an out to get out of this contract before that 12, 13 years is up. If they can, they're able to dissolve the conference somehow, they would be able to maybe move out of the conference. What I would tell you is, and I don't know if you saw that episode or not, Jim Williams, who was a 7-time Emmy winner, broadcaster, he's worked for Fox, ESPN. I mean, this guy, he's worked for the Big 10, the SEC, Game of the Week for the Big 12, all of those 3, football and basketball. This dude he knows his stuff. Guys like him and Bob Thompson will tell you, Bob Thompson, of course, being the former CEO of Fox Sports, these guys are going to tell you that there's no way this is going to happen because ESPN is not just going to let their contract that is very favorable to ESPN and goes for 12 years just run out the door.
Right.
So there's going to be lawsuits and things like that. Now, I mean, what ends up happening, who's to say? But as far as from what we were seeing from TJ Pittenger, from the FSU guy from Double Fries No Slaw, he's been talking a lot about, hey, we're going to get – oh, you got a JUCO lineman. We'll talk about that here in just a few. Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? But he was talking about that they were going to try to bring everybody together, and that's what I was trying to explain to everybody, that if you could get 8 8 schools that will say, hey, we want to dissolve the conference, right?
Right.
You obviously have Carolina, Miami, Florida State, Clemson that want out because Florida State and Clemson and really Miami, they all consider themselves to be blue blood-esque anyway, right?
Sure.
They've won national titles recently. We can argue all day long about whether or not they're a true blue blood. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
The point being is that these guys are competitive and they want to continue to be so. They're definitely brands that move the needle, and that would include North Carolina as well. What they were trying to do is if you can get the 8 teams, so they basically would need to talk another 4 teams into agreeing to vote that we want to dissolve this conference. What they could do, that say these other 4 teams, apparently the Magnificent 7, they've got 7 of 8, and they may have added an 8th one, according to Greg Swaim today.
Oh, wow.
You would have had NC State, Virginia Tech to make the 7 up, and then apparently Louisville is maybe jumping into that boat as well. Now, these are obviously schools that if you start looking at Louisville, NC State, Virginia even, right, and possibly Virginia Tech, I think that Notre Dame may vote for that because they're being a member in the other parts of the conference, and it kind of holds them up on being able to do anything new also, right?
Right.
So I think they do have the number to do that, to the way it looks to me anyway. What they would do is obviously these other schools that wouldn't be going to the Big Ten or the SEC. You're thinking the thought right now is that you're going to have Miami, Carolina probably in the Big Ten, which I could see that.
Right.
That you would have FSU, Clemson in the SEC. I could kind of see that, except for that all those years that Coach Bowden wanted nothing to do with the SEC and there's all that bad blood between them. I tend to wonder whether or not they may not want to be Big Ten. I don't know that it really matters. I think that they're going to go somewhere that they're going to make bigger money.
Right.
And because as they put it, think about just over the period of one contract, 5 to 7 years, and you're losing $40 million a year in comparison to these bigger schools. How do you catch up to the SEC? How do you catch up to the Big Ten? Right now, the ACC has schools that can beat the Big Ten. Right, Clemson's done it. They've been beating up on Ohio State. It's kind of the big brother to Ohio State, and the playoffs have come around. Yeah. So it's been just kind of one of those things. Now, what they would do is, if in exchange for coming in and voting with us, we will make you whole on whatever. If you go to the Big 12, say, if you're Louisville, which would be perfect for the Big 12 when they're a basketball school. Same with like Virginia, right? These are basketball schools.
Sure.
It would raise up the national profile of the Big 12 even bigger than it is, because right now it's the best conference in college basketball without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
It's getting better. Gonzaga is apparently on the way. If you get those 4-corner Pac-12 schools, you got Arizona coming into it too. That's a true blue blood, you know. So that would make 3 big conferences. So and I get what you're saying here, Cracker. I'm not saying that there's true college football blue bloods, except for, listen, when you look at Miami and FSU, these guys in the modern era are as good as anybody. They are. Ever since going back to like the late 70s and then into the 80s and 90s, these are 2 schools. They've won more than Florida has, and I don't know that Florida is necessarily. We don't have to get in a big argument about who's a blue blood and who isn't. Right. You know what I mean? The point being is these are real deal programs, and they are big. Obviously, they're big brands that move the needle in college football, and that's the point I was trying to make.
Right.
And I get what you're saying, and we, that's a conversation for another day. But I appreciate what you're talking about, Cracker.
But
welcome
again,
to the show,
guys,
by the way.
And Jason, just like you said, it's a big possibility this could happen, and this is continued talk that we've had about the big conferences, and guys, that's where we're headed. There's no doubt that's where we're going.
2 or 3 big conferences, more than likely, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
and that's
it's really interesting though. I mean, it's and there's a lot of possibilities that could happen.
yeah, and I love it when Hank comes in and pops a Texas killer. We'll just do that real quick. Thank you, Hank. While you're at it, folks, make sure that you throw them horns down in here and hit the like button. Got to make sure that you hit the like button. That helps us out. It seems like such a small thing, but it is huge for content creators. The algorithm picks us up based on the number of likes we get during the stream, the number of comments we get during and after the stream. That's what allows it to get maintained. For us to grow, we have to do that. And that's a free way to help us out, right? Obviously, you can help us out with tips through Venmo, Cash App, or that Super Chat heart. Right above the coach is our official podcast merchandise website. Right above him, there is, our little horns down hats here. You also have, there's some other cool stuff in there. I don't really want to give it all away. We do have our seatbelt merchandise from Macari Vickers. Get in there and check some of that kind of stuff out. We troll Tebow on some of our t-shirts, some of that kind of stuff. Cool stuff, right?
Hey, I still want to say, hey, what happened to our Okie Light shirt? You were gonna.
I do have that can, but I haven't really. I hadn't really tossed it on.
I like that.
It's just been busy. You like the can?
You need to show that to everybody.
Okay, I'll pull it up. Hold on just one second.
It's friggin' awesome.
Okay, I'll pull it up in just a All right. Right below me, real quick, if you want official licensed merchandise for your favorite team, whether it's Oklahoma or Notre Dame or anybody else out there, even if it's Texas, you can save up to 65% off everything in the Fanatic store just by using our link. That's right below me. We get a small commission for everything you purchase. Obviously, you get a great deal, everything you buy. And it's time to gear up, guys. We're reaching 100 days. We're getting close to 100 days until college football is back. Woo-hoo! I can't wait, man. I cannot wait. So excited about it. Now,
it's going to be a great year. I'm telling you, it's going to be a great year.
I'm excited about it. And it's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of new things. We're gonna find out what even this last season in the Big 12 for OU and Texas. You're welcoming 4 new schools into the mix. BYU, who's I think that they have a national brand program. They've won national titles. They've won Heisman trophies. These guys, I mean, they play football. The chances are it's going to get a lot better in the Big 12 as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. And so. And obviously, can Oklahoma and Texas win the conference on their way out? Obviously, OU has dominated the Big 12 for the better part of its time since the conference has existed, going all the way back to 1995. There's obviously been a lot of defection from the conference as well. Texas has been ineffective for the last 15 years or so. Pretty much, which is fun. It's always fun to say that. I can
tell you, they are not winning the conference.
I don't think they're going to win it either. If you're listening to now, I don't know how many of you guys were on our live the other night, but if you're listening to the pundits around the country that don't watch football, as me and Coach have been trying to tell you, they all think they're going to. ESPN's FPI has Texas at the top. A lot of people have them. Even I heard Pate saying that it's his favorite to win the Big 12. So, Josh Pate, you guys can go give him a hard time here in a little bit because he did say it. So, anyway, listen. Getting back to this whole deal. Good question on this. Oh, well, let's go back to this real quick. Hank says that makes 3 big conferences. What the hell is the Pac doing other than losing and looking like they have no leadership? Right. Coach, that was the other thing. Another thing that got announced today was that the Pac-12 is moving back its media rights decision to August at this point. A month from time to play. Obviously, they have 1 year left on their current deal, right?
Right.
But they still won't have anything. Yeah, Sooner Cowboys. Listen, I'm not saying that they shouldn't win it. I'm not saying they shouldn't win it. Just saying that they should have probably won it last year. There's some other times that saying Urban is looking at Texas. Well, shocker.
My big thing about Texas guys is, you know what, the proof's in the pudding, and they haven't proven anything lately. Sark hadn't proven anything. So until you prove that you can
Yeah.
do it, then let's not even talk about it. I mean,
It's one
prove
thing to
it up.
say, yeah, and the thing, Coach, I think you're right, but it's one thing to say, like Josh Pate likes to go out there and, well, just because you haven't doesn't mean you can't do it. Well, I agree with that to some extent. I get what
Hey,
you're saying.
I have
agree with
golf
that.
clubs. I have golf clubs. I ain't worth shit in golf, but I have golf clubs. I
Someday
have
you
all
can
the
hit a good
tools,
shot, though, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and I may make a good shot every once in a while, but hell,
Yeah.
you can also have all the tools in football and win a couple of games. Yeah.
Listen, that's the whole thing. But what I'm getting at is when you start looking at what happened, and obviously he took over Washington at a time that they weren't good. I mean, they had struggled. They had been good a little before that, though.
Sure.
It hadn't been that long. SC was going through its little stuff, but really most of that stuff was starting to kind of wane, where they were getting more of their scholarships and stuff like that. He imploded his career at SC with the bottle. And I've said this before, guys. I don't talk trash about him being a drunk and all that stuff. He's battled that demon and he's passed it. And I say good for you, Sark. That part of it, I'm not going to trash him for,
sure,
right? But he hasn't never won 10 games. In all of his time, he's only won 9 games once. And there is enough of a sample size to say you're 7-win Sark.
Yep.
You know?
How many times do you say, Jason, how many times do you say he's won 10 games? Never.
Correct. And he's only won 9 once. And they should have won 10 games. I mean, listen, you had Bijan, and their defense wasn't bad, but they couldn't get out of their own way. Think about the losses that they had last season in the conference. The Okie, they're up 17 in that one, right? And late in the third, they're up 17. They lose. Texas Tech, they're up, they were ahead 10 in the fourth quarter and lost, right? They were ahead in the second half of the Alabama game and lost. That's 3. That's 11 had they won those games that they had leads in the second half. And yet they didn't. There's reasons for it, right? That's just yeah, I'll give you that, Kim. It's they're gonna look for whatever reason. They love that burnt orange garbage down there.
You know what? I looked at my, I kind of went through and looked at
all gas, no brakes.
The top teams that I kind of ranked them in my head a little bit, and
good.
honestly, I had Texas way. I mean, I had them in I think in the top 15 at 14 or 15. I don't remember now, but even then, I thought I was being pretty damn nice.
You had them where?
I think I had them either at 14 or 15, and I was being kind.
Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to polls, and here's the thing about we talked about this on Saturday, the polls themselves, whether it's the reporters that, whether it's the AP poll or the ESPN poll that they use writers and stuff like that. I think the ESPN poll, it's more of a national writer type of poll than is the other ones. When you start looking at the AP, and I don't hate the AP, but they use beat reporters from each school, right, to vote in this thing. Now, it's a large piece of it. The problem is those guys don't see any games aside from whatever team they cover. I was talking to Greg Archuleta in Albuquerque whenever I was at the Albuquerque Journal.
Yeah.
He covered the Lobos. He didn't see any of the good teams. He got to vote for the Heisman. I'm like, I didn't see the Heisman Trophy winner this year, bro. I'm sorry, you didn't.
They don't get to see any. I mean, let's be honest. In Albuquerque, Lobos, and I have a lot of Lobo friends, but at the end of the day, they don't get to see any Heisman players.
No, generally not. I mean, maybe if in that early season when you get one of those, patsy games, and they do that sometimes to get paid.
You tell, hey,
But
just
the
name
AP
me
is
one.
right. Hank's
Just
right.
name me
It's
one
a
off the top.
popularity pool. Huh?
Hey, name me one off the top of your head that's played against UNM. Okay, you're done.
No, I mean, I was trying to think of the last. If you start thinking about it, UNM and New Mexico State have both played. They've played Alabama. NMSU played Alabama this past season.
Oh, that's true. That's
and
true.
they've played Ohio State. They've played some of these teams. So where you might get the Heisman winner from, right?
You're right. Yeah.
So I mean, but we're talking about one freaking game at the very first of the year. You're not watching them the rest of the year. And the point is we were talking about the polls. They sure as shit ain't watching them all year. We know that, right? So it's a popularity contest, like what Hank was just saying. Yeah. Gave them a lot of confidence. I think the Bama could steamroll them. But the only thing about Alabama is you don't know what's going on with their quarterback situation. And does that mean they just run the ball more and maybe run over you? Possibly. I would say if Gary Patterson's back, they're going to have a quarterback that can do something, right? He'll game plan it well to where they kind of have to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm loving this already. We're caught in this crazy wind tunnel because Texas sucks and Kansas blows.
Kim, I love it, man. I love it.
My man, I love it. All righty. Yeah.
That's
so again, yes, they base their polls and off of who's always there. I mean, if you could literally look, what I would say is that Oklahoma hadn't made the polls, but every significant poll I saw had Texas at 25, right? I think they're probably better than 25 because some of the other polls that I saw were worse than that. But in the end, just kind of talking about that, they base it off of past performances, whatever's happened. I'm seeing a lot of TCU way high up there in the polls and stuff like that. And I mean, anybody who knows anything about it knows that they lost a significant part. 8 guys to the draft.
Yes, they're going to remain
the quarterback, the Heisman runner-up. You know what I mean? They lost all that, and not to say that they may not have. Chandler may be better than Max, but they don't have the guys around him like they did. They definitely will not have the defense that they had last season. So you don't know what you're getting in it. But yes, obviously we kind of got off track of what we were talking about. But yes, when it comes to Texas, everybody loves Texas except for us. We all hate them. TCU's last half. Yes. Hey, they have TCU's got a juggernaut of the last half of that schedule. In fact, I'll let me pull up that schedule.
Yeah.
It's man, TCU football. It's brutal. And obviously now that's who Oklahoma closes with is TCU. That'd be the last game of the season, regular season. My guess is there's going to be looking for some revenge on that one after the way that they did hit Dylan and, kind of. They were hurting everybody last year, though.
Yeah.
Everybody. They hurt a quarterback for like 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
crazy. They did. Let's see. Come on. And whatever's going on here, this internet is so low. All right, they open. See, I'm going to tell you, I still think that Colorado's going to give them a hard time. Obviously, Nichols after that, they'll be fine. At Houston, I mean, they should win that. SMU, they should win that, but maybe not. They've when that's what got fired when he wasn't beat. Anybody now, West Virginia, they should win that. Iowa State game, there's your first probably big one. They follow that. That's at Iowa State. Then they follow that with BYU at home. There's something I want to talk about. Then they're on the road at Kansas State. They go on the road to Texas Tech after their bye week, at home to Texas, the Baylor game, and then they close with OU. Yeah, that's a brutal last half. When you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the last 6 games and really the 7, yeah, dude, they're hanging over. It's gonna be a hangover. Believe that.
I agree.
I totally think that that's what's going on. I would be surprised if they're in the top half of the league by the time all is said and done, right? I just think that that's going to be tough. Duggan would have played with a severed left arm. Yeah, dude. Hey, listen. You can't badmouth what they did last season. I mean, aside from that championship game performance, but they ran into a buzzsaw and they ran into the best team in the country. And they ran into the best team of the country a week after they struggled a bit with Ohio State. They weren't going to have 2 clunkers in a row, you know.
Guys, Ohio State was, again, and I just tell you this, we played Ohio State. Notre Dame played Ohio State early on in the season, and I'm just telling you guys, we didn't have a quarterback. I mean, we could have probably brought in somebody out of the bleachers to play quarterback, and we played Ohio State tight. Ohio State wasn't as good as what I believe people thought.
Here's what I would tell you about that game, though. This was why it worked out good for them to play Georgia. Yes, think about it. This was a team that it would have been a great track team, right? When you think about those receivers and stuff from Ohio State.
Right.
Would have been a great track team. They're inside, not in the weather. They're on the carpet. That's the best possible scenario for them.
Sure.
You would think them playing at Ohio State would have been it, like, say you get to play it at home or in a cold stadium or something like that. Not that they would ever do that, but let's say they did. That would have been – some people would say that's good, but if you think about it, they got their ass kicked the last time they had played at home in the cold to Michigan. So this was a team that you go into the dome and you're playing on the carpet and your speed becomes an issue for even a team like Georgia. Okay, now you have an opportunity, right? I still feel like had they have played Michigan again inside in that scenario, they probably beat Michigan too. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But, I mean, I could have seen it happening, right? I still think that should have been the game in the semifinals anyway. TCU should have dropped a spot after losing the Big 12 championship game, period. That's my feelings on it. But I want to see USC struggle.
Well, and going back and talking a little bit about preseason rankings, that to me, that's always, and even as a high school coach, to me, that was always garbage.
None of it matters.
Nothing.
You don't know anything.
You can kind of. I think about the only thing you can kind of do.
Returning production, stuff like that.
Well, I think you can kind of clump teams, maybe in groups of 5 to, I think you can clump them that way. But it's really hard, guys, to say, so-and-so should be ranked number 1. Obviously, Georgia should be because, they got to be dethroned. I mean, but rankings, and I'm telling you, I spent a lot of time this weekend just looking at that. I did more studying than I've done in a long time.
Oklahoma was in the top 10 going into the season last year, even after losing 44% of their roster.
Yeah.
Even the people around the country that cover college football forgot that they lost 2 5-star quarterbacks.
Well, a lot of them didn't even know it.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, you start looking at that, and that's where it kind of happens. And so now the power rating stuff is, it's hard to tell exactly what they go by, but they're going by obviously recruiting rankings, things like that. Some of that returning production, you start looking at some of those guys, what their offensive line looks like, what their defense puts up. It all depends on what they have to, right, exactly. Yeah, they were the top 5 after they won the first 3. They were right up there. And, of course, they played Cream Puff U for 3 games. UTEP I mean, I guess probably Kent State was the best of those three.
UTEP, we have the starting quarterback at UTEP was from HobbsAmerica.com.
Yeah. Yeah, the Nebraska game, everybody thought they were world beaters after that one, right? Yeah, hey, I went to school with his mom, with Gavin's mom.
Yeah, Gavin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gavin's pretty darn good.
Man. He's good, man. He's got a nice arm. It's too bad he went to UTEP.
Yeah, I agree.
And not because I'm just trying to trash on UTEP. I'm not. But
no.
It's a tough
UTEP's not
to
a
go.
football school. Let's just, I mean,
no, it's just you're gonna get. But here's the thing: there's Palmer got a chance to play in the NFL out of there. If he can go and do well in the combine,
yeah,
you know he's got the size, he's got the arm that possibly he can get an opportunity to play. I mean, it's gonna make it harder, but you never know. That's why you're hoping that some of those guys that have those programs in the NFL that have the deep scouting, that they go real deep. Obviously, that's not going to be Cincinnati. They only look at the college football playoffs, so that's the only place they scout.
I think he might have had a chance, and I know I'm getting off topic, but I think he might have had a better chance if he'd gone to Texas Tech.
There too. Yeah, did they offer him?
I don't think they did.
That's insane.
But hell, I think he'd have been better off just walking on.
I do too. Oh, well, and he won the national championship at Nimi, right? At the JUCO level. Yeah. So, that's something that he should have done. I agree. Okay, the Kansas State game. No, yeah, they didn't really. Well, the TCU game broke them. the Kansas State game, they were in it. It was one play away, right? It's one of those. They were right there, and they had a good game. They had Dylan Gabriel actually outgained Adrian Martinez in that game. But I agree with you. When you start looking at all this stuff, we don't know who's going to do what from year to year overall, unless you got a lot of guys coming back. If you're looking at Georgia, they've got some guys coming back. They've got some guys that are new. With the way that they play, and their schedule sets up for them to return to the playoff because it's trash.
Right.
It's trash. Oklahoma was supposed to play them. When they started moving up the move to the SEC, they canceled the game. That's why both of them ended up with no out-of-conference game that was really good. Oklahoma had to replace them with Arkansas State, And then they got Tulsa and SMU after that. Not really a great way to prep for the Big 12. The good news is the Big 12 schedule is not that hard for OU either, right? Yeah, the 2CU game. And then that's what I was saying, Mars, is I felt like when you start looking at that one, early on, OU looked like, well, until the Kansas State game, they had played good defense those first three games, and they lost the next three. I don't want to get depressed. It's going to get me all depressed and stuff. No. All right. In any event, I'm glad that we've kind of you all right there, Coach?
Yeah, I'm getting a little choked up. Getting choked up when you start talking about OU getting better.
Oh, yeah, I know. You guys give it to him. Give it to him. Throw a nice little boomer sooner in there.
As long as they beat Texas.
Tell them what you really think about Notre Dame. That'd be all right.
Oh, don't tell me
who
that.
Started to play like a champion today? Who started it? Not Notre Dame.
We're waiting till tomorrow.
Right. All right. Yeah, we haven't really trolled each other too much about that, but the season will start soon, and then we can.
It'll be
fun. Yeah. All right. We got way off the topic. I don't even know how we ended up here. Here's where I was going to go with what we need to look at is this obviously the ACC. This could really change things, right? Now again, I would tell you that whatever happens, it seems to me like they got enough votes to get to dissolve it. What ESPN's going to want to do with that, who knows, right? They could tie that up and like even just having it in court could cost you a lot of money. in the end, right? So, but I can't blame the ACC for this because it seems to me like they should have found some way to get an out or to renegotiate at some point. If you're going to do a 20-year contract, you have to have some kind of. I got to say that I feel like that they made a big mistake in the ACC to allow that because, and even though it's backloaded or whatever on the conference side or on the money side of it, all of these other conferences, considering the other three, will have renewed another 2 times by the time that they renew this one again. So I can see exactly what they're looking to do. Here's what I really feel like though about when you start looking at the ACC. Now, say this happens. Now, we heard over the weekend that they've already vetted and okayed UW and Oregon to the Big Ten. What I would tell you is it's a lot. The ACC schools are much more what's the word I'm looking for here? They look a lot hotter to the Big Ten than do Oregon and Washington,
right?
Because of the fact of what they're in. You know what I mean? I feel like they would much rather have Carolina, Miami, even right. To be able to get into Florida would be huge for them. If you could go, and even maybe to have somebody like Virginia or Virginia Tech, you would probably still want to do that, right? Yeah. Nobody's first off, I don't think that they give anybody a full share, at least until towards the end of this first contract with Fox, the way it is. Any new ones, but it's going to be much more attractive for them if you look at somebody like Virginia, or even Florida State. Any of these teams from the East Coast, I think, are more attractive than are. I get it with Oregon. Everybody loves Oregon, the Nike school, blah, 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 blah. But you don't see enough of them, and they haven't done anything. The Pac-12 has not been good. They have not been good. They put I think Washington has kind of it availed itself with Chris Peterson when they made it to the playoff. They looked good in it. But the majority of the 9 playoffs that have been played, they haven't been involved in them, right? They just haven't been involved in them. So,
right.
And nobody sees them if you're an East Coast team or a Midwest team or a Midwest school because you're in bed by then, by the time they play that 7:30 Pacific game after dark stuff. Yeah, they're serving a sentence. I agree. And, and I said this before, guys, and I know a lot of people agreed with me on it. To me, I don't understand why, if you're ESPN, you would allow this to happen, because all you really have to do is say, you know what? But here's the thing. Jim Williams kind of shut me down on this. He goes, you cannot go school to school and negotiate. You would have to negotiate with the entire conference to do that.
Right.
So you'd have to get everybody to decide that that's okay to have unequal revenue. So the truth of it is, and I get what he was saying. He was like, what reason does ESPN have to do such a thing? They don't care. They still are in it for this amount of money. They don't have to do anything. Right? Yeah, I don't love Oregon either. I'm with you. But I was getting at a lot of kids do. They're a visible program as far as visible as it gets out there in the pack, aside from maybe SC, right? And I still think with kids, they're probably these days, this generation of kids, most of these kids hadn't seen USC be worth a shit. Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart was over 20 years ago. That's the last time they were worth a damn.
Long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you start looking at it in those terms, and it's a different deal. It's a different deal. Now, cheating pumps. Dan, did I just say that? Yeah, you did. Okay, but Hank, you got it right. The ACC is it's like serving a sentence, and I agree with you. And to me, I felt like there's got to be something you could do if you're ESPN, maybe renegotiate it or something like that. But as Jim Williams said, and he's been in the industry, He would tell you that there ain't no damn way they do it. No damn way. They're paying a lot of money for the ones that they already have. They own this thing lock, stock, and barrel. I would try to keep it together too, right? I would. But to me, and to a lot of people out there, they're saying that this is starting to look like that's going to happen. Could it happen even before the Pac-12? I don't know, man. Here's what I would tell you: if you know, because the Big Ten came out and said that they were good, right? That they were letting them, that they had vetted them and approved them for membership. So, but it was going to be up to Oregon and Washington to make that choice, or they were going to have to wait and see, because they don't want the Pac-12's blood on their hands, which is the funniest thing I've ever heard, right? Yeah, I was seeing. You were graduating school the last time USC won anything. Yeah, exactly, Rob. That's what I'm saying. That's the point. That's the whole point. Now here they are, finally starting to do something again. So branding wise, Oregon is at the top of that, because of their uniforms and the Nike stuff and all that other stuff, right? That's all that is. Coach having a little bit of difficulty here, so we'll continue. Now, I would too, man. And I said the same thing. At the very least, I wouldn't want Miami. I wouldn't want anybody from Florida going to Fox. I want Fox out of Florida. Those are big markets in Florida. Probably the only. I mean, yeah, they're big markets. I would want them out of Florida. I'm with you on that, Hank. I'm telling you. But here's the deal. It's looking as if this could possibly happen. And I would tell you that I also kind of agree that I don't blame them. If you're FSU, you're not going to sit around and wait for them to just choke you out of the whole thing, and now all of a sudden you can't compete again just because. You're not going to have it, I wouldn't. So, yeah, I think it's something that it could happen, and it seems to me like you're getting some momentum here. But here's where I was at on it. Now, if you're the Pac-12, if you're those schools, you're Oregon and Washington, knowing that you have the opportunity to make that move, you may not want to kill off the Pac right away, but I think you have to jump now. I think you have to get together with these other, and I'm not trying to say I want the Pac-12 to die. What I'm telling you is if these ACC schools are more attractive, and it's starting to look like there's an opportunity that the ACC could jump ahead of you in line, I think I would be pushing the Four Corners to go. And I would be pushing the Four Corners to go myself. That's just me. Coach, you all right there?
Yeah, I'm good. I had to go get something to drink. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, you're getting a little scratchy throated there, so I just popped up.
Yeah.
All right. What I was just saying to everybody, I feel like now that they've been vetted and everything, but if you know that the ACC may be about to blow up and they're more attractive to, say, the Big Ten, if you're Oregon and Washington, do you not start pushing these Four Corner schools to make the move? Make the jump. We're jumping too. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to sit around and wait on the next round of realignment. And again, because it's the same when you start looking at Oregon and Washington, hey, these are schools that believe that they can compete at the national level. So if right now they don't even have a TV deal at all to keep up their any kind of visibility, but the money's going to be so far behind. From what Swain was saying, the only money that is out there right now, and I've heard different things from different people, but I think the only real offer that's on the table at the moment is ESPN saying $9 million per team for one game a week. So right now there's not a streaming deal that's still in the according to Swain. I don't know what's what. I hadn't heard a ton of it. I've been moving all week, so I want to make sure that I just preface that with this is what other people are saying, I know that Swaim has been on top of this. So I'm not saying I don't believe him. I'm just saying this is not coming from me.
Right.
Excuse me. Now, but if you're Oregon and Washington, I think you have to think of it in these terms. You got to get out of there. So I think that you're starting to see these cracks in the facade there, where all the BS talk that's going on, and you've got all these looking down your nose at the flyover truck stop conference BS crap. The academics matter, blah 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 blah. The academics do not have anything to do with any of this. We've talked about that. But yeah. Yeah. Yes. We'll I don't know when you get off work there, Matt. We'll be on for a little while though. I'm hoping I get a couple of guys to pop in and talk a little bit about this. Again, I just feel like if it's me and I'm Oregon and Washington, we know that they have one foot out the door anyway. I don't know what you're waiting on. I would make it happen. You know what I mean? I think that's what you're probably going to see. I think that these schools that are on the fence and saying they want to be part of it, now you have Kliavkoff coming out and saying today that it's going to be August before they have a deal, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. So and I mean, dude, they could have had a deal. Essentially, it's the same BS as it's been since last year. That you could have had a deal, you had a deal, and you didn't get it done. It's the same deal they offered to the Big 12 that they took. They had offered it to you. You could have, and this is where I said earlier, Kliavkoff could have killed the Big 12 2 years ago. Multiple occasions he had to kill the Big 12. And he has an inability to talk these conference presidents into anything. Tony Altomore, we have like nowhere else, the Pac-12, the conference presidents are in charge of everything.
Yeah,
they're in charge of everything everywhere. Ass clown. Okay, they are. The difference is when you have a guy that has some stroke and knows what he's doing, just like the Texas OU deal, they talked him into it, right?
Yep.
Zadavian Sims. I'm hearing that. Yeah, Parker was talking about that. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Zadavian, I was thinking that he was probably going to be the one that got away. He seemed to be really stuck on Michigan State. I don't know if Mel might be losing it up there because he's losing coaches. A lot of them are going to the league and stuff, but I think something's up with Mel, man.
Yeah.
I do. So in the end, if I'm Oregon and Washington, I'd get the hell out now. I would leave now and do that. If I'm the ACC, I keep doing what you're doing. It could come apart. It could. Where does this benefit the Big 12? I'll tell you. Because these others, there's only going to be, right now you're looking at about 4 teams that are viable for the SEC or the Big 10, right? Those major 4 teams right there. I don't think that they're looking to any of the schools from as far as, Oregon and Washington, but none of the Big 12 schools is what none of the remaining Big 12 schools is what the SEC wants. They don't want them, right? I think that they would definitely go, but they would probably even pull. I think that they would go West Virginia before they would pull, or Virginia Tech, somebody like that, before they would go after anybody in the Big 12 as it stands without Texas and Oklahoma.
I agree.
Just because of where they're at. That being said, if you're in the Big 12, you also are in a decent position to pick up basketball schools, which is what is going to allow you to compete on the national level. Are they going to compete all the way, or is it kind of competing? We're going to find out. I'm not going to trash the Big 12 right now and say that they can't compete. I have a problem believing that they're gonna, but because they really haven't. I mean, TCU, okay, good for you.
Well, the 2
back
best teams are leaving. I mean, bottom line.
Yeah. Well, the ones with real ability to recruit at that level that you need to recruit at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, but if you start looking at it where if you can pull basketball aside, you can keep up because you don't have to send that football money to basketball and everybody else, right? It can help fund the rest of your programs the way it is, right? So I would say, you're looking at NC State, Virginia Tech, Louisville. I mean, these are prime basketball schools for the Big 12. I mean, that could make up. I mean, if you're going to go to 2014 leagues, that's going to be pretty salty, right? Yeah. Always need a Washington Generals team. Yeah, that's Iowa State. Nope, no, they're pretty good. I'm just joking. Who is that right now?
What was the question?
That Washington Generals team. You always need a Washington Generals team. He said, SEC might take OSU in West Virginia. Okie Light ain't going to the SEC, bro. It ain't happening. I don't see it. Wake and Duke, I could see that I could see Duke going to the Big 12 because of the fact that it's not about football for them, right? It's never going to be about football for them. Texas A&M going back to the Big 12. I could see them bitching their way out and maybe going to the Big 10. I don't see them going back to the Big 12. No way. And that's already your Washington Generals, right? Aggie, come on, little brother Aggie. All right. That's too funny. Too much fun. All right. Yeah, Aggie, man. And all they do is complain. They've been throwing a fit, but there ain't no way you give up. I don't care what anybody says. They're not giving up that money. There ain't no way. And now, especially, the reason that they left before was because it was the ATM Generals. That's what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah, the reason Clemson's the SEC. Clemson's SEC, Mars. No doubt. No doubt. I think that's a done deal.
Yeah, that's a no.
I think they see themselves as an SEC school.
Sure, they do.
I think that Florida State. Listen, TJ thinks that they're SEC, and it seems to be that's where most of these Florida State folks. And listen, far be it from me to tell TJ Pittenger that he don't know what he's talking about. What I do know is that Coach Bowden was unequivocal in to hell with the SEC. They tried to get Florida State to go to the SEC for years and years and years and years. And his thought was always, why? I go to the Orange Bowl every damn year right here in the Big East. Mm-hmm. The ACC. Why? What for? He wanted nothing to do with it. To the point that it got to a point where it made a real rift between a lot of these, boosters in both conferences, or at Florida State, and then between the SEC big dogs, that they were like, they'll never let them in. Those kind of things die with people, right? And, a lot of these people have died. So TJ seems to think that they're SEC. I'm not positive of that. They are getting their AAU distinction as well. Miami is an AAU school. I wouldn't be. And here's the other thing that I would think of is, how hard is ESPN going to make it for us to go to another? Can you see them joining the SEC if ESPN's got a freaking lawsuit against them? I don't think it's a done deal as everybody thinks it is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? I could see that changing things up. Is Miami OSU would finally give Arkansas a rival, because I'm not feeling it with the Pigs, but they sure try hard. Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a real rivalry there. I guess after they do the meetings in Destin, they're going to finish up this schedule. We should have something on that coming up here in the next couple of weeks. That's good news, right? Is Miami a true ACC school? No. And they were a Big East school. When they won most of I guess they were ACC the last time they won the national title, right? It seems like they were. That was after the Big East died, wasn't it? I'll
I
have to
believe
check.
so.
I think so, but I'm not. Man,
I think you're right, though.
are they a true ACC school? They've been in it for a long time now. I mean, are any of them though? The ACC you think about is Tobacco Road. To be honest with you, that's the way ACC I think about. Carolina, Duke, NC State, Wake. They're all 10 minutes from each other. You know, that's the ACC I think of. And then Florida State in football, because none of the rest of them were any good at football until just recently. Clemson was good, but they were never until look, Dabo did it right. And that's what if I don't know how many of you folks caught the story that was done on The Athletic about it was a story about Coach Venables and the way he's recruiting, his philosophy, which goes back to Dabo a lot. That they're going to make sure that it's, and we've talked about this, it's relationship recruiting. You're not going to, his deal is that he is absolutely not going to deal with drama in recruiting. That it takes you off. That means drama in the locker room to him. I can agree with that. So that's probably going to take him out of, well, some players. I think that, but I don't know that that's a bad thing. And this is what at Clemson they were able to do. You start thinking about it, there was a list of guys that at least 5 or 6 of them that were 3-star guys, Skalski and Isaiah Simmons being part of that group, that were part of that core group that helped them, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something that you have to, yeah, I think so. I think you're right, man. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. I don't think that you can do, but here's the thing: you're fighting all of them as one now, right? I don't think it's going to be it's a group, the Magnificent Seven or the Magnificent Eight, whoever they're calling them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoever gets out of there, I think they're going to fight them hard on it. But that could be a Clemsoning. Clemsoning was a thing before Dabo. Yeah, I know. I get it. I get what you're talking about. But that's the thing. It's all about that relationship recruiting, because if you're Oklahoma, you don't have the money that A&M or Texas has. You don't. You just don't. Clemson doesn't either, right? If it's going to become about that, then there's schools that are going to have more money. USC, some of these other programs that are at Notre Dame, they're going to have more money, right? Not that they're going to necessarily pay it, but there's schools out there that are a lot richer than Oklahoma. There are. Not to say that Oklahoma's poor, and they're spending on the level. I don't know how many of you guys caught my appearance on the Voice of College Football, the Oklahoma side, where he had brought up the amount recruiting over the last 4 years. Oklahoma and Texas were dead even. I mean, to the dollar, dead even in what they've spent on average. So, and actually OU last year spent more. So, which surprises me because I know that they spent like some $3-4 million on Arch Manning's weekend and for his official visit, whatever, or 300,000, 800,000. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was an exorbitant amount for like freaking ice sculptures and bullshit. So it was, I don't know, but anyway. In the end, yes, Oklahoma is going to make sure that they're going to recruit at the top. But in order for you to do it, you want to go and get those few guys that you know are going to hang around. You don't want to the way that, and this is the way that I read it. Guys should all check that out on. I don't know if you have access to The Athletic. If you do, you should check it out. A lot of what I saw them talking about was saying, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. And this is where Oklahoma's probably never going to catch up to LSU, Georgia, Alabama when it comes to the number of 5 stars you're going to may be able to pull in a year after year after year. Now, you may have a year like what they just had, but you realize that, what was it? There was six or seven OU guys that were in the top 120, or 8 maybe, that were in the top 120 recruits.
Yep.
Alabama had 15. double, right? They had 9 5-stars. It's insane, right? You're never really going to see that. But here's the not just because and I'm not saying that you couldn't do it, but they're not going to do it because that's not the way that Venables wants to recruit. He wants to recruit guys that are going to be around, not that are going to leave in the portal.
And it's player development too. I mean, that's huge too, because
but you look at all these guys that leave Alabama every year,
far.
right? I mean, it's because they're bringing a crap ton of them in. They've got a long list of them. They're probably telling some of them to leave.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can take a good 3-star kid and develop that kid to where he's gonna, as a junior, senior, he's gonna be hell on wheels. And that's, I know we've done that at Notre Dame for many years.
Hey, you have to. That's the lifeblood of your football program, right?
It is. And those are the kids that, like you said, Jason, those are the kids that are, hell, they're so happy you recruited them, being a 3-star, and they're so excited and they're loyal for the most part.
Listen, this recruiting stuff is not a perfect science, by the way. Right? It's not a perfect science. There's guys fall through the cracks. Don't make me bring up Darian again. He fell through the cracks. There's guys that do it every year. Think about the kid that they got out of Tennessee, that defensive end. Why am I forgetting his name? It's it'll come to me. These guys, nobody knew who the hell he was. Nobody knew who PJ Adebawari. His junior year, nobody knew him. He was a 3-star. He went to number 4 in the country because they started recruiting him from OU. And it was a good thing that he's as loyal to Oklahoma as he is. They found him that he was going to go, and he'd stop talking. He didn't even talk or go anywhere else. He didn't want to do that. So that was big. But I mean, until OU started recruiting him hard, nobody knew who the hell he was.
We just, and like you said, it's not a science. And, kind of to interject, I mean, I'm looking at, because I obviously keep up with the Notre Dame recruiting and so forth. And,
of course.
And we just picked up 2 linebackers that committed to us. One of them was Bodie Cocoon or something. But anyway,
right. I saw that.
3-star guy. Both of these players were 3-stars, but they're deep, obviously good defense players in high school, but wingspan, height, all those things. Can they put on weight? And we went ahead and signed those 2 3-star kids. And there's a lot of people moaning and groaning, guys. And this goes back to what you're saying, Jason. It's not an exact science. And you know what? Yeah, hell,
some of these 5-star guys, I mean, they jump off the paper. It's obvious. I mean, once they knew about PJ, he became a 5-star right away. Right?
Exactly. And so again, just selling those 3-star guys, you can get some really good ones in there. And I know you're rolling the dice a little bit, but when your coaching staff knows what they're looking for in an athlete, you can think
about Marcus himself. He wasn't a 5-star player when he went to Ohio State. He was really good, but he wasn't a 5-star recruit. Those coaches know those. They know themselves. Venables says the same thing. He was talking about that in this story that I was talking about. That how that's the way they did it. He was an underdog, and that was the culture that Bill Snyder, cultivated at Kansas State. Was we were a bunch of underdogs, but we're dirty, nasty dogs. We're going to win.
Exactly.
And they did win. Shit. They were great.
Yeah, right? They were. Hell
look at all those years that they had. Yeah, Sam Bradford, 3-star. That guy freaking played for 12 years in the NFL.
Yep.
Right? If it wasn't for injuries, he'd still be in the NFL. Right? He was great. Number 1 pick. Right? Yep. Baker Mayfield didn't have any stars. He was a walk-on. Maybe a 2-star or something like that. Yeah, nobody wanted him. He won the freaking 6A state championship in Austin. Texas he had to walk on at Texas Tech. Or he could have went to Houston or Rice or somewhere like that. But he bet on himself And, it paid off, obviously. But, yeah, you're talking about guys that went number one, Sam Bradford, Baker. Obviously Kyler was not one of those guys. Everybody knew who the hell Kyler Murray was.
Yeah.
But there are guys like that are out there, I didn't know who Pat Mahomes was until he went to Tech, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't overly impressive when he played for Kingsbury, because Kingsbury sucks.
Well, it's because of who he played for, exactly.
I would agree. Yeah, if you put him at Oklahoma, he wins a Heisman probably.
Yeah, I would agree. Hate to say it, but I agree.
Yeah, I mean, he probably does. Again, but all these guys are not necessarily. And and what was it Spencer? Tell me in the comments here, guys. Spencer Sanders, he was at least a high 4. I think. Was he not a 5-star? I think he was a high 4-star. Correct? Would you think that Spencer is that good? I don't. I don't. I think he's okay, but I think that the dude is Pick City, man. He is what he is.
Well, we got to remember too, guys. These are kids. These are kids that are coming out. You got to look. It's all about
the intangibles. And then you develop them into what they become. No doubt.
And you got to look at their family tree too. I mean, what's Dad look like? Right. Hell, Dad's 6'6".
Did he play in the NFL? Yeah.
You got to look at those other intangibles that are there. Right. That
Nigel Smith, his dad was an NBA player or played high level college basketball. Sure.
Yeah. But there's athletes in their family. So you got there's so many things. And like I said, they're still kids. And so you're not sure how they're going to mature. I mean, you might be a 5-star coming out of high school. You may be through growing.
Theo Weiss, injuries happened to him, but Theo Weiss was one of them 5-star receivers that Lincoln got, and he just never really panned out. And not that I'm not hating on Theo Weiss at all. I think he's got a great family. He graduated from Oklahoma. He's a Sooner to me. I don't care that he went to Missouri this year. And maybe he just needed to change the scenery, right? And he wasn't one of BB's guys. That's fine. I don't have a problem. I know some people dogged him. I thought it was bad. But he didn't live up to that. Jaden Hazelwood, he's one of the top-rated recruits in Oklahoma history. Hazelwood is. He didn't even get drafted. And I don't know. I mean, what happened? There were some injury issues there too, but I think a lot of it was no develop. They didn't get developed. And part of that's on you as the player as well. It's not just the coaches. I mean, if you got to come in there and want to work. And some of these kids, they believe their press clippings coming out of high school, and it ain't high school at this level, right? It's not the same thing. We were talking last week to coach's former player at Skyline, and I mean he came in. Good program in high school. He's big, huge guy. What was he coming out of high school? So this is Stephen, right? Stephen Coleman.
Yeah, Stephen Coleman.
Coming out of high school, he was what, 6'5", he's 6'5", guys, right?
Yeah, 6'5", he was a 6'5", 300. Kid. Yeah.
Right. But he had to fight with Tommy Harris and Gerald McCoy to get into the game.
Yeah.
He wasn't a 5-star, was he?
No, he wasn't a 5-star. He
hadn't played long enough probably to be a 5-star.
No.
Right.
But I think he probably would have been considered at the very best, he might have got a 4-star ranking.
A 4-star at the end.
But could have been a probably was a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he ended up fighting for a spot. He developed more, got some more weight on him, and again, another factor we haven't talked about is intelligence.
Which Stephen had.
Yeah.
Hey, look at Teddy Lehman, folks. You think that guy was a 5-star? Teddy was a beast. Teddy's still a beast. kick your ass any day. You know what I mean? He makes me laugh on his show. I love his show. The Oklahoma Breakdown is hilarious. Him and they have a good time. And Teddy's just, he's still that intense dude, right? Just one of those guys. Yeah, Dusty Dvorak. Yes, sir. See, guys, I love talking about stuff like this. I mean, again, talk about these guys that come in and I mean, Steven didn't become an All-American or anything like that, but I mean, here's the thing. More than likely, if he goes somewhere other than Oklahoma, maybe he does something different. Now, that's easy to say that. But if you stay around there and you're tough enough to battle it out with guys like and learn from guys like Gerald McCoy and Tommy Harris, Hall of Famers, right? You're going to have a good career. I mean, maybe he does better at TCU or somewhere like that. Who's to say, right? But
never know.
That being said, he graduated from Oklahoma. He's a Sooner for life, and he was great. He had a great end of his career. I mean, he waited his time. He got his way into the games. He beat Texas 3 times. Loving that. Good for him. So there it is. Lunch Pail guys, the soul of the team, and that's exactly it. It's not all about having all the 5 stars, and I know we want them. I know we want those guys. You want to go get them and prove that you can do it. I think that you're going to see they're going to get, Matt was asking, are they going to get Zadavian Sims? Maybe. Think about all the guys that they're in their top 4 to 7, whatever they're at now at this point, right? And again, guys, I'm not the guy that I just live and breathe this recruiting stuff, man, because that's worrying about the whims of kids. And I'm sorry, that ain't me. Yeah. There's a long time until signing day. Now I keep up with it because I know you guys care. What I can tell on reading the tea leaves and from what I hear from the people that I believe in, and not saying that Parker's really one of those guys, because he's not. So I'm just going to let y'all know that he's not. I mean, here's who I believe. Wilfong says that Williams Nwaneri is going to be in Oklahoma soon. Steve Wilfong, they call it Fonged for a reason. The guy knows what the hell he's talking about. He's saying Williams Nwaneri. I think David Stone should be. His sister's at OU. He grew up in Oklahoma. I know he's at IMG now. That's a business decision on his part. It was a smart business decision on his part and his family. I still think he ends up there. Nigel Smith, I'm hoping. I like Nigel a lot, man. I watched some of his basketball tape. He's unbelievable. I just think he's that guy. He attacks the rim. Like, when you watch a football player playing basketball and how aggressive they are will tell you a lot about how they play football, right? This guy finds ways to get to the rim. He loves to dunk it so much. He just wants to dunk. And he's a big-ass kid, right? That tells you he's going to swim his way to that quarterback, too. I want to see him. But I still feel the same about David Stone. And from what it looks like, there's a possibility here with Zadavian Sims as well. And, he's a high 4-star, not the 5-star yet. I don't believe that Nigel has become a 5-star yet. He's going to. I would tell you he's going to. He's right there. I mean, I think he's in the 40s right now. So you got to be in the top 32 to be a 5-star, whatever. Who cares if he was? I'm telling you, he'd be an unbelievable get, right? And he's always at Oklahoma, man. Always at Oklahoma. So I believe that they're going to get, and whether they get him and what's the other guy, the JAJ guy, when the Fong drops his balls.
I love Hank. Hank, you got it going on, brother.
You guys, I love all you guys. Y'all make me laugh, dude. I love it.
Something else Hank just said, the lunch pail guys. Well, another thing that takes us to,
they get it, junkyard dogs, man. I mean, you guys are right.
And it takes us back to that development. And guys, another key piece to all of this recruiting, and they're never really talked about, are those strength coaches in the strength program, because they can make you or break you.
Hey man, Schmitty's had 7 Heisman Trophy winners. 7. He's trained. Yeah, that matters. You don't need the freaking. We keep calling that boy the yoga instructor, Lincoln's guy. But if you when we, yes, he is. When you start looking at the way that they were doing things in Oklahoma, that I would tell you that the best that you probably were going to see out of Lincoln was the first year when they weren't, because they didn't use his strength and conditioning coach. They're going to get smaller at SC every year he's there. I don't care if they bring in Bear Alexander. They're still going to get smaller overall, right? And they're not going to have a ton of those guys anyway. They're not, just not. And they're losing out on some of these guys. Now, I'm not just trashing on them. This is just the way they are. And with the way that they do things, they're going to get smaller. That first year, with Baker and that team, they should have won the whole damn thing. They had Georgia on the ropes. They were playing. I was in the stadium. They were big enough. They were just as big as Georgia. They were.
Maybe he'll have to start doing a little ballroom dancing too.
It's possible. Ballet,
yeah.
For
balance.
Yeah, they were still bullies. Hank, you got it right, and that's the whole point. I said that they were still bullies. They were still big, right? He fires Schmitty the next year, and he goes to Texas A&M. They all of a sudden they get bigger, and they got smaller the next year. The next year when you saw Kyler's team against Alabama, they're considerably smaller than Alabama, right? Considerably smaller. The year after that, with Jalen, it wasn't close with LSU. Was not close. Wasn't close. This is how it is. And again, I'm not just going to sit here and just trash Lincoln, but F Lincoln. Just to say, there's a shirt like that in the podcast merch, fellas, that nobody's buying. So shirts and hats. So, just so y'all know. All right. In the end, things are changing. And the reason what I was getting at on that whole story, with the going through and looking at that story, and it was a great one. I enjoyed the piece. He was talking about the way that they're going to do things. And so while I know that people are having these expectations that you're going to start supplanting, maybe you're going to get a number 1 class. I'm not seeing that. I'm thinking that it's more likely going to be you're going to have a bunch of top 10 classes. You might have 1 or 2 top 5s in a 5-year period, which is what your teams are going to be based on. I think that's going to be what it is, right? Yeah, hit the like, you can give us tips, Venmo, Cash App, or the Super Chat heart. Make sure to visit our podcast merch store above the coach, and then you also have the Fanatics partner store, which is right below me, right there. Up to 65% off everything in the store just for using our link. Win-win situation for everybody. Let me ask you guys something while we're talking about some of the stuff on how to support the show. Would you guys be interested in memberships? Maybe we do some we could go and do some Discord sessions, things like that. Where if you bought a membership for a monthly membership kind of deal, would you guys be interested in that? Let me know in the comments. Something I've been looking at. I try to give you guys as much stuff on the free end as I can. Obviously, we're at some point we're going to have to make a little bit of cash here to continue to grow. What are we looking at? Didn't Coach have his Big 12 picks this year? Well, he was working on his top 25. Well, I think, man, I've been moving stuff, so I'm going to tell you I didn't do a top 25. Coach, I think, has one. I think maybe we wait. We maybe get Okie like Cody on here later in the week,
That'd
and
be good.
we'll all do a top 25 deal. We'll do some of that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, I'm in on that. No, we're talking like $10, guys. We're not talking about a bunch. I'm talking, starting off at like $5, $10, $20 being the highest one or whatever, right? And you would get different perks along with that. So that way we could do Discord. We can kind of BS with everybody in some of those. We'll do some more, maybe some shows that are just for those members or whatever. It's just a way that we're just trying to, grow and do the best that we can do with that. And, hey, if any of you guys are, have a company that you'd like to sponsor us, we could plaster your name all over the show, and then it'd be free for everybody else. I mean, we could do like Josh Pate, find me Academy. That'd be great. But we'll get there. We'll get there, man. Hey, man, and I get it. Listen, and what I want everybody to know is I'm not telling you that I'm not happy with it. I love you guys. I really do. You guys are a great audience. You've been great to us. I'm not complaining about that. If we get our numbers up, if we continue to have a lot of views and more subscribers and things like that, we'll make money just from views. So don't concern about that so much. Share us a lot. As I said, there's free ways to help as well. Share, tell people about us. Make sure you're hitting the like button and getting helping us get those subs up. I'd really like to be at 2,500 subscribers by the time the season starts. We're talking 110 days now or something like that.
Where are we at right now, Jace?
We are at 17. I believe it was 1780. The last I looked. Let me look.
Okay.
Quick. I believe it's 1780. But man, this is kind of slow today on the internet. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, we're getting close. We're almost to 2,000. I mean, we're a couple of hundred away from getting to 2,000. So we're about 700. If we could get to 2,500, that'd be awesome. We're going to keep trying to grow this content, and that's why we're trying to do a little more with like Colorado stuff like that as well. There's a lot of folks that want to get a lot of content about Colorado, man. Coach Prime, they love them. And and it's actually kind of fun to keep up with it too. We're always going to be about you guys and about our audience that we've built already, but we want to branch out into something kind of like what Mark does, with his. But there's a lot of cats or naked women always work for the numbers. Hey, help me out then, bro. Send them this way. I like this dude. That's funny. Dude. Why is that not showing up there? I think you may have got filtered, bro. I don't think it's going to let me show it. That's funny, though. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Yeah. No.
Hey, perfect cracker. If you want, I guess I can start taking my shirt off and showing my muscles. And
see, here's what we do when that happens, folks. We just do that. Okay. I promise.
I love it.
And listen, I wouldn't subject you guys to that on me either right now. Not at all. You want to hear us talk, not see us so much. All right. Guys, anything else? So obviously there's still a lot of stuff to be had as far as this realignment is concerned. The good news for Oklahoma fans is that going to the SEC, it's not a problem, right? But you are going to see this. You're going to see the landscape is going to continue to change in college football.
No doubt.
I would not be surprised about anything happening. I still do believe, yeah. I still believe that ESPN is going to kind of fight to keep Florida. I would. I know I would. Bottom line is I would do that. That being said, I think that if this turns into a big lawsuit, whatever, and ESPN fights them very hard, I think that they could lose. I think it would be a misstep on their part. I really do. And right now, here's another question. Can ESPN really afford to to have a lawsuit like that because it's going to be expensive on both sides of it. They just laid off 4,000 people.
Yeah.
You know? So
well,
can they
and I tell you what, a lawsuit helps nobody, guys.
No, man. And
at the end of the day, it helps.
Ask a conference president what they think about lawsuits. They don't want to hear the word.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, lawsuits is a nasty word when you talk to college presidents and you talk to and again, like you said, ESPN, they're struggling in some ways right now.
They are. No, they are. And it's a lot of look, I'm telling you and folks, I don't know how many of you guys are on Twitter or in some of these other places, but if you want to know some of this stuff when it comes to that, you really got to pay attention to Jim Williams. This guy is and Bob Thompson too. These guys, I mean, they know their stuff. What you're starting to hear Jim say a ton of is that expect some of these. I don't know how many people noticed this, but Las Vegas, which I guess Scripps, which is that Ion network that we were talking about, they are getting into the WNBA, which is going to bring up it's going to help with some money there. And also the NHL, they're doing regional over-the-air networks. So I think you're going to start seeing it's kind of going backwards, but you can see that's a way that you can make more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah, I think six edge guys is what. Yeah. It just depends. I was just pulling that up there to kind of look at who we got. Man, when you start looking between your transfer guys and some of the guys that were already there that may be moving in, Trace Ford is one of them. I mean, I don't know. Are you talking recruits? Is that what you're asking me, Hank? And they did better on the edge guys. I mean, they got the Taylor Wine from that was the Tennessee kid I was talking about earlier, right? And then you've got obviously PJ was a big ad, but and then they did good in the portal. I mean, Dasan could play edge easily. And in fact, I kind of think that's what he was. Linebacker, edge rusher. I mean, it's just I think that Dasan's going to do a great job. But I also feel like, the JUCO kid, right? Okay, let me find him. Because man, this thing is slow.
You know what, Jason, as you say, that I took my computer down today and took it in to have them work on it. I just I'm using my daughter's today, and just had the same thing done with hers.
Well, I have I do the Clean My Mac deal. I think it's up for renewal, and probably that's why. I'm just guessing, but I should probably do it. But it's everything's kind of slowing down, so I'll have to check it out. But yeah, let's see. Home site here. But it's just kicking it off of on Google. Yeah, so
what are you trying to get to? How many edge players?
No, I was trying to just find that JUCO kid that they just got today.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I want to read about him. So, but yeah, it appears that he's gonna listen. These kids, they're doing a great job. That's what I mean. Bottom line, they're doing a great job. And when we started thinking about, I know last year everybody was worried about David Hicks not going and him taking the money and all that kind of stuff, right? So you start looking at that, but they were in on a lot of these guys, and you could see that as this went along, they were going to be in on some of these guys. And I think when you start right now, where they needed it the most was defensive tackle, but all along the defensive line, but mostly defensive tackle. And that's what they've gotten. They've gotten those guys. So to me, I'm excited about it myself. I feel like you're looking at you're looking at a staff that knows what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And they have 5 or 6 guys right now along the defensive tackle position that, theoretically, they could get 3 or 4 of them. I think that you're probably going to guaranteed see 2 of them, right? And they're the high 4-star or 5-star guy. Williams Nwaneri is the number 1 guy, right? I think he's still Wilfong to go to OU. Zadavian Sims, he's a high 4-star. Look at that guy. If you just look at his physique, he's unbelievable. Same with Williams Nwaneri. Look at Stoney. Oh my goodness. These guys are, and as I said, I still think, I like Stoney a lot, and but my favorite has been Nigel, just watching what he does. So I think that you're seeing what you want to see. Lane Jenkins, yes.
Lane Jenkins, yeah.
Yeah, 6'6", 255. Yeah, man. And if they like him, right? Caleb Downs, yeah, and Grimes. I kind of agree with you. What do you think now, Cracker? I don't know how many times, unless you've changed your name or something. I don't know how many times I've seen you in here. Where are your thoughts about, is Caleb Downs possibly going to be moving to the inside? Because he struggled getting home. That's something that K. Chris has talked a lot about on some of these other shows. Grimes, I think they're going to look good too. But you've got Lacey, you've got Bothroyd, you've got some of these other guys. I think that PJ, I think they're going to work him into it as the season goes on. But I think that there's going to come a point that he's going to be a starter by the time it's all said and done. I think he's going to get a lot of time towards the end of the year. And, we were talking about, this is a kid. His brother he went to Northwestern, but he's the one that ran a 4.4 from, at 290 pounds. 6'6", 290, ran a 4.4 in the combine, coach. That's PJ's brother.
That's all just a 4.4?
Yeah, at 6'6", 290.
That's a dead gum runaway freight train there, buddy.
Yeah, and he went to Northwestern. Obviously smart kid too, but good grief, under recruited probably. That's one of those under recruited guys. That's what I was talking about. How do you end up at Northwestern? You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's a bad. It's a great school if you're a journalist, but yeah, I get Halton and Sears have made it tough for anyone. You're right. Hey. Dude, Devon Sears, what a big pickup there, right? Texas State. Big move, right? Mm-hmm. I think you're right, too. They didn't just bring this JUCO player in to sit the bench. And they didn't bring in Rondell Bothroyd to sit the bench, and they didn't bring in honestly, Trace is probably going to get in a lot on the edge, I would think. If he's healthy, if Trace Ford, they didn't go piss off Okie Light getting him just to piss him off. They want to use him. Obviously, he's going to have to stay healthy. But some of these guys that they brought in, I would think that you're probably going to see some movement on the line. And I think that you can. I don't think that it has to be any certain way, guys. You got to remember that when you start looking at, Ethan, he's not one of – they don't have to play him. He's not one of BB's guys. Now, they love him, and I think that he's great for the program. I think that that's the reason he's still around. And he can put on the weight. Look at his frame. That dude is a monster. Ethan, I like him. But I think that he would benefit from a move onto the inside, right? I just do. Because he struggles to get home. And you can already see the difference in him and PJ, right, as far as speed, quickness, that swim move. All right, guys. Folks, once again, please make sure that you hit that like button. We appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Let us know what you think as far as some of the things you might want to see as far as memberships are concerned. What are some things that would make you want to buy the membership? And we'll do 3 levels to it. We'll have a starter one and move up from there. Yeah, we've got 17 likes. We've had 100 views, only 17 likes. So make sure that you hit that button if you hadn't already done it. Please, please, please. That's the free way to help. It's always great. I think a lot of these dudes are Yeah, time invested. He'll stay edge. Yeah, and I know. Hey, listen, you're not alone on that one. I know that James thinks the same thing as you. Perfect. So I listen. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I want to see him get more playing time, and I think that he might benefit from that. So we'll see. We'll see. And the main thing I want, put some pressure on the quarterback, man. Get home. R. Mason Thomas is another one of those guys, Kim. Yep, I'm with you guys. Deep rotation is the key. And that's the whole thing going into the SEC is to have depth in those key positions on defense, right? Because these big boys, it's great that USC went and got Bear. It's one of them. He ain't playing 70 snaps, boys. He ain't. So, just saying. Anyway, you want to have a deep rotation of guys. Make sure they stay fresh. We keep pressure on that quarterback. It could change things around a lot. Guys, we'll definitely be coming back to you later in the week. Maybe on the road a little bit, but I'll get with Coach and we'll definitely come together. We definitely want to do a top 25 our own because we've been bitching about it for 2 shows now. So we might as well do our own. And obviously be looking out for I'm going to do probably a couple of recordings, and I may do a live tomorrow with Jim Williams or with Greg Swain about realignment stuff. These guys are, obviously they're right in the middle of it. They're both broadcast guys. One's a radio, one's in TV. I want to talk to both of them, see what we're hearing. Keep up with that. That's going to be big. It's going to change the face of college football. There's even a lot of stuff they've been saying about what does this mean about Notre Dame? What are they doing here? Is it to work yourself towards Notre Dame? I think they're going to force them. I think it's going to be forced, man. Look at what they just did. Coach, look at what the Big Ten just did. They were just talking about you don't have to play out of conference Power 5 schools or those types. So if all of a sudden your rivals aren't allowed to play you anymore,
yeah,
and then you can't get into the playoff.
And you said it, Jason. Here's the bottom line: is Notre Dame's going to get squeezed. I mean, it's
not really about money so much. If they want to play for the championships, they're going to have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get it dictated to us by the time it's all said and done.
Right.
Unfortunately, but it is.
Listen, and listen, I don't blame them for not wanting to, and obviously Penn State they held out as long as they could, right?
Yeah.
It's one, and there's something to being able to be Notre Dame and say, you know what, we don't need your conference.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We can make the money anyway. Good for you.
So Jason, where do you think they go? I mean, I know we've talked about SEC, big.
I think the SEC. I mean, honestly, I think more than likely probably the Big Ten. But if it depends on who you talk to, though, Coach. I've heard so many Notre Dame guys close to the program, Notre Dame guys that say, "No way, no way." They've talked about them playing a partial Big 12 schedule so that they would qualify if it came to that, and kind of being a partial member of the Big 12. I've heard stuff like that. Listen, one thing that Notre Dame isn't is, I mean, they got ideas about things they can do. They'll get creative about ways to not be beholden to the Big Ten, I think.
Right.
I really do. I don't think that they want to be a Big Ten team. I think that the time that they wanted to be a Big Ten team, they got treated poorly by Michigan and Ohio State and some of these other schools, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it.
I hear you.
So
yeah, let's just jump into the Big 12. We'll be fine.
Yeah, don't worry about the Streamlabs. I'm going to cut those guys off. Don't worry about that, Hank. You say whatever you want. Yeah, listen, I agree. I think that Big Ten not required to playing out of conference games anymore could hurt Notre Dame. Whether it's Power 5 or not, because Notre Dame is considered a Power 5 school. It's up there, right? Just because you said piss, probably don't worry about it, guys. I haven't used Streamlabs but one time, and that thing keeps popping up. I'm gonna go get rid of that right now. I just wrote it down, so it'll be off there. Y'all don't worry about the bots. I'm gonna start taking some of that off. Anyway, yeah, I feel like but I do think it's at some point you're probably going to see it, and it may be a little ways down the line, but it may be because I don't think it's a money thing so much with them, except for that they don't want to fall behind, and they're asking for they could do 75, but I don't know that there's any of these. Even NBC doesn't look like they want to pay that kind of money for part of your schedule. It's not even all your games, right?
Right.
So I don't know that they're going to get that like that. If you go to the Big Ten, you get it. You get 100. If you go to the SEC, you get 75, 80. It gets to 100 late, but they're a little behind. Behind.
I tell you what would be interesting.
I know you guys want, guys. Don't worry about it.
I tell you what would be interesting is to see what kind of a deal they make with their apparel. I think that'll also play into
sure. All of this does, and that's where you start looking at some of these regional networks for the rest of the country. That really is not a Notre Dame thing because that's a national brand, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that some of these Pac-12 schools, some of these other, or even these smaller conferences that aren't going to be, the smaller conferences that are never going to get that kind of money, right? But they matter in San Diego State matters in San Diego County.
Absolutely.
And even all the way over to UNLV and Vegas and stuff. They care about them.
Sure they do.
And so you're going to be able to get, if you can sell it directly to, that's what they're talking about. Jim's been talking about it. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of these smaller networks selling directly to the consumer, right? Or the schools selling directly to the consumer right through these regional networks. Scripps is a large company. Ion isn't a big channel, but it's owned by Scripps Howard, which is one of the largest media producers in the world. So, it's they know what they're doing, right?
Sure.
But yes, you're absolutely right. As far as the Big Ten is definitely trying to bully them into it, but they've always tried to bully Notre Dame. It's the same with the Pac-12. They've always tried to bully around and look down their nose at BYU, right? They didn't want BYU probably should have been invited over Utah if you know the truth of it, right? Because of their following. But because of the politics part of it, they propped up Utah. And good for them for propping up Utah. But why do you do that? Because of the Mormon thing. It's just silly stuff. But it's the same thing that goes on with Notre Dame, with the Catholic thing and all that stuff that went on. The Big Ten, hey, man, it's a it's a different deal. It's a different deal, but that's what happened. So, yeah. So just piss. Yeah, there you go. Hank, quit using foul language. See, it just did it right there. Except New Mexico, nobody cares about New Mexico. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Most of them don't. Right, as far as New Mexico football, who gives a shit? They're terrible, right?
Hey, guys, I tell you, let me just tell you a little deal about that. When I first came from Texas to New Mexico to be the head football coach here.
It's a great state. It's a great state.
We created a program here, built an indoor facility that was incredible. And just to tell you, just to kind of echo what you're saying in that statement, our weight room and indoor facility itself was better than UNM and New Mexico State. So that'll kind of tell you what college football means to New Mexico.
Yeah, and I mean, they were the only ones that offered Brian Urlacher, which is crazy, but he went to UNM as a receiver and became a Hall of Fame linebacker.
By the way, his son's coming to Notre Dame.
Did he finally commit? It's a commitment now?
Yes, he's committed.
Man. Well, good for him, man. He's
another 3-star kid.
Stud. Yeah. But he's got another year left, right?
Yeah. But that's what we were talking about earlier. And I wouldn't even think
Brian didn't have any stars, man. Brian had none.
But look at his, look at that tangible there of who's his dad. He's a pretty good athlete. And I'm going to tell you, he was a
unbelievable athlete. Unbelievable. He
Yeah.
played everything. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about playing everything on that last show. Brian did that. He played
Yeah.
everything. Basketball. He's a golfer. He plays great golf. He was a good baseball player. He was a really good basketball player.
Yep.
You know, he was a stud, man.
Well, and that's another thing. You had a great athlete that played all these sports, but then when he really focused on football itself, he got so much better.
He was, man. He was, well, and he got, I mean, when he went to UNM, he played everything but quarterback. He punted. He did everything but play quarterback. Every position on the field almost. You know, he was even punting and kicking and stuff for a while. They were that bad. They needed him everywhere.
But let's be honest. In the state of New Mexico, college athletics is about basketball.
It's hoop, yeah. It's a hoop thing, yeah. Well, listen, you're not going to keep up with them anyway. You know what I mean? You're not going to keep up with these other guys anyway. And Arizona's the same way, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
They're a little better at football, but not much.
A little bit.
You know. Anyway, guys, we appreciate it. I've totaled 2 cars in New Mexico. Animals, lived in Oklahoma. Yeah, Clayton, New Mexico. Oh, yeah, you'll hit a cow out there. It happens. It happens a lot in Clayton. Deer, elk. I hit an elk one time. It should have killed me, probably. Yeah. I missed an elk one time. Almost killed myself, but it would have killed me. He would have been in my lap.
Oh, wow.
So 1,000-pound, 2,000-pound elk, man, those things are monsters. Yeah, you can hit a lot of animals out there. Not quite like New Jersey, though. Those deer are everywhere out there. You'll hit stuff all the time. Yeah, some of these places, it's like that. But anyway, fellas, thanks so much for coming in. We are going to go ahead and get out of here. We're pushing 2 hours at this point. You guys are great. Yeah, I almost hit a pig recently. So coming back into New Mexico from Texas, monster, man. He took up half of the freaking road out there by Carlsbad, going into Carlsbad. Screwy. That would have not been good, man. It would have not been good. I think it would have he would have totaled us. It wouldn't have done nothing to him, probably. He was a monster. Wow. Anyway, guys, appreciate it, folks. We will see you on the next one. We'll let you know coming up this week. I'll post on right in here, but thanks for coming out. We'll see you on the next one. Oh, make sure we do the out. Hey, you guys all know the drill, right? Say it with me. Smash that red subscriber button. Like our videos. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Hey, we even have amazing pod merchandise right here in our store. Hey, while you're here, don't forget to check out all these other amazing channels and subscribe to them too.